Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another knowledge. My name is Dr. Vivian Ottabor, and I'm honored to be your host today. For those joining for the first time, Resilient Immigrants is more than just a community. We are an organization that celebrates immigrant advancement, amplifies immigrant accomplishments, and actively dismantles harmful narratives. We also inspire current and future immigrants to pursue leadership, excellence, and impact. Today's session is titled Career Reinvention Without Starting from Zero. And we're joined by an incredible guest who embodies the spirit of resilience. Her name is Doyin Abitoye. And Doyin is a lot of things. She's an incredible individual. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Doi does. So Doi is a HR professional. She's also a life and career coach. She's the founder of the Rise and Rebuild community, where she helps immigrant women gain clarity, rebuild confidence, and strategically grow their careers and just, embody excellence. As an immigrant herself, Doyin understands the silent struggles of navigating career transitions in a new country, from identity loss to underemployment, despite strong qualifications. Through her work and her book, Shh, she equips professionals with practical tools to silence limiting beliefs, translate their excellence into market value, and position themselves for meaningful career opportunities. Doing combines real world HR insights with lived experience to deliver guidance that is both relatable and results driven. Doing, I hope that encompasses your introduction.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Vivian.
Awesome. All right. And today it's, we know the things that immigrants struggle with, right? A lot of immigrants come, they migrate to a new country, they have qualifications, they have degrees, and they just believe that, when they get there, it's going to be all roses, everything will be wonderful. They would, they have a system that works because they're leaving their home country to a better place. But then when they arrive, they notice that that's really not the case. Um, I mean, in your experience and in your line of work, you see this every day. What would you tell individuals in that situation? Immigrants who have migrated or planning to migrate.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Before I go into answering your question, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me. I am genuinely excited to be in this space with this community. So I would say first thing is when we're talking about the topic that says career reinvention, a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
when people hear that, they always think it's very dramatic. It sounds very
Mm,
dramatic. It feels like, or it sounds like you are burning everything down and you're trying to rebuild from scratch. But what I would like to make clear today that this is not what it actually means, especially for immigrants. When we talk about reinvention or career reinvention, it is not about you demolishing or destroying whatever it is you've built before. It is more like you should see it as renovation.
mm,
While we're talking or while we're going through the session, I'm going to be using quite a number of analogies to make it quite easy for people to like picture it because once it's visual, people can really relate to it. So I would say to people that career reinvention is like you just updating or upgrading what you have so that you could fit into the new neighborhood
mm,
because you already have the foundation, you already have the
mm-hmm,
structure, and you already have the most important thing, which is the craftsmanship.
mm.
All those things are still there. And all you need to do is just to learn what the new market finds valuable. In other words, you have to reposition yourself accordingly.
Okay. So when you talk about this reinvention, right, I want to hit the nail on the head because a lot of people think reinvention is starting from scratch, which you've explained it's not starting from scratch, right? It's really just like a renovation. How about the people who feel like, well, I'm coming to do something that I don't have any expertise in, right? So now maybe I was a banker back home in my home country, and then now I've migrated, and you're telling me what this new market wants is healthcare workers, or what this new market wants is people who have skills in IT or, technology or things like that. So then I have to learn that. I have to drop all my years of experience and learn something new. I might not be equipped for it. I might not have the technical skills and acumen for what this new market wants. How do you balance that?
So the first thing I would say is one, it takes a lot of resilience, it takes a lot of grit to want to leave whatever it is you've been doing before, right? To pivot to something else or something new. It takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of strength. So first of all, I would say great job to whoever is thinking that way. But then the first thing I would say you do, or the next thing I would say you do, is you need to sit down with yourself and have an audit done before you act at all. So, in other words, before you think about, okay, let me update my resume to go into nursing, or before you think about even applying for the nursing or whatever it is you're thinking about pivoting into, before you think about rebranding yourself, dumping the life that you had or the career you had before, I would say to you, you need to pause, you need to take stock of what you already have. And which is a lot of times we call that transferable skills. You need to sit down and ask yourself, what do I have? There are quite a number of questions I will say you ask yourself, but three most important questions to ask yourself. You need to ask yourself, what have I done in the past?
Mm.
In other words, career wise. One, what did that produce for me? That's number two. Then the next is, who did it serve? Once you can answer those three questions correctly and you are true to yourself, you have the foundation of your career reinvention. And then you can now add to say, so what do I want in this new journey? Because you need to be true to yourself. Because a lot of people will tell you, this is where there's money, this is what leads you to whatever pathway you're going to. You hear a lot of things. But one, you need to sit with yourself. You need to have an audit. You need to ask yourself those questions. Because at the end of the day, you need to be true to yourself.
Okay, so I love that, right? I love that you even are applauding people who are thinking in that direction, because some people are really stuck in their ways, but they're not even open to having that mindset shift or even welcoming a new career, right? And one thing I always say is you are not a tree, right? If you're in a certain career and it's not working, it's okay to move to another one, right? Um, as you rightly said, you're in a new market. If your new market does not require what you were doing in your home country, it's ridiculous to keep trying to force it, right? It's like selling to a market that doesn't want to buy what you're selling to them. You have to sell what the market needs. And so, in that aspect, you have to, first of all, be open to welcoming that idea. Like, okay, even if I have to learn a new skill or a new technique, I know it's not easy. I'm willing to apply myself, right?
Mhm.
Now, there's another category of people where they have that openness, but then they already tell themselves, I cannot do it.
Hmm.
They come up with so many excuses. I'm too old. My brain cannot handle learning something new. They start to tell themselves it's not, like there's so much negativity, right? It's like they start criticizing themselves, like the inner critic for themselves. Like how do immigrants manage that inner critic? Sometimes you might think, oh, maybe it's even imposter syndrome, but there's an inner voice telling them you cannot do it, right? How should they handle situations like that?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Because when you were saying that, I was just smiling because those are some of the things that I addressed in my book. But before I even go into answering your question, I would like to say to you that something a lot of people do not talk about enough, right? The biggest barrier immigrants face when it comes to migrating and a career reinvention, the biggest barrier is not even your resume.
Hmm.
It is what happens in your head.
Hmm.
It is the limiting beliefs that we carry.
Hmm.
the feeling that, oh, I am behind, just all those things you said, the imposter syndrome, or sometimes that my accent disqualifies me, or my accent is a problem, right?
Hmm.
Or a lot of times you're like, oh, I came into this game late. Or
Hmm.
you're thinking, oh, because of my color, I have to work twice as hard, right? And then you begin to sabotage yourself. So, what I try to do a lot of times is to use this analogy. It's called like a GPS analogy. So, I try to share that with people. So, you know how a GPS works, right? You put
Hmm.
in your destination, it tells you, oh, this is where you're going to, it calculates the route for you.
Hmm.
And then you're already on the pathway, you're already going. But then the moment you start to second guess the turnings is taking, right? Or you start to think about random, like this GPS is not directing me to the right place, right? And then you now start to recalculate. You start to second guess, right? The
Hmm.
journey that is going through. That is exactly what inner critic does to our career and our lives, right? When our mind plays tricks on us,
Hmm.
then what we now start to do is we start to interrupt the route. And at the end of the day, we end up spending a longer time getting to where we
Our
want to get to.
destination.
Do you understand? And
Hmm.
the real truth is inside of you, you have what it takes. Because it's only courage that can make someone pack up. Yeah, sometimes some people say, yeah, maybe they were looking for greener pasture, but still, beneath it all, there was courage, there was
Hmm.
strength, there was
Hmm.
grit, right? There was a lot of energy, a lot of passion that made you take that journey because you couldn't even see the future. So the moment
Hmm.
you've taken that journey, I would say to people, you need to silence those inner critic because that's the biggest barrier ever that affects immigrants. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book Shush. Because even me myself, I'm sorry I used the word me myself, I experienced that. Do you
Hmm.
understand? Like because at the point when I was migrating, I was already the head of HR for like a government
Hmm.
parasite. I was fine. And that wasn't the first time I was going to be the head of HR. I'd been the head of HR in an organization before I moved to that. Right. So but getting into the country and starting all over again, though I still continue with HR, I'm not going to go into my own story. But at some point, the journey is the inner critic, the voice, it just became so loud. The limiting belief was so loud. Second guessing myself, my voice became very I just couldn't even understand myself. Me that you would have asked me, oh, don't you tell me your 10-year goals? And I would confidently tell you. I became a person that you would ask me for my 5-year goals and I will be quiet.
Hmm.
But then I had to walk through the journey. And that's what I'm saying right now. You have to interrupt that voice. You need to silence it. And it comes from a lot of things that you have to do. So I had to go through that journey. And that's why at the end of the day, I had to write the book Shush, right? And that because even in the book, there are a lot of practical tools in it to help people
Hmm.
quiet and silence the voices that just tells you you're not good enough, either the imposter syndrome, either fear of the past, either comparison, whatever it is. And so right now, you just need to do the work, quiet the inner critic, and
Hmm.
then with that, you can become the best version of yourself. It's a lot of journey. It's not like a magic wand. It
Yeah.
is a lot of things that comes with that. But the eye level, that's what I would say to such a person.
Okay. So, Doyin, I mean, I have to ask you, to please give us a little bit of insight into your journey, right? Because you've done an amazing work, right? Because it's not easy for you to I mean, you're helping a lot of people, right? I read all the comments on your post when we highlighted you. You've genuinely helped people. And I feel like there are more people to be helped because a lot of people from African descent don't necessarily believe in coaching. I'm just going to say it. They don't believe in coaching, right? They believe the internet is there. I can Google things, I can YouTube it, right? And so you're a coach, and it takes someone who has been through that journey, knows the ups and the downs, um, the high path, the low path, to say, I've been there, done that, and I want to help other people, right? Which is what you're doing. So I want you to talk a little bit about your journey when you migrated, how it was for you. First of all, even before you migrated, as you rightly said, you were already head of HR back home, right? And then coming to a new country where you might have been thinking, I don't know, but you might have been thinking, oh, I will just get a job and similar to what I was doing, and then you really realize, oh, that's not the case or whatever. Because I also that was the case for me as well, right? Something similar, right? How did you navigate that period? What was that? What was the reality for you? Like, how did you feel? What were the emotions? How did you navigate? How did you pick yourself back from knowing, like, hey, reality check, this is where I am now. It's either I dwell in my frustrations or I do ABCD to get back to where I need to be. Can you walk us through that journey to where you got to now? And then also talk a little bit about your book that, people could get more insights, more tools, as you mentioned from.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I'm mindful of time. I could go on and on and on about my story, but I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
touch on it high level. Prior to migrating to Canada in 2019 fully, and I would explain why I said that. I was an HR professional. I'd worked in
Mm-hmm.
quite a number of organizations, worked in media, worked e-commerce, Conga for those who Nigeria, worked for startups, quite a number of startups, Cast 45, where I became the head of HR there. And then I later moved to government parastatal, where I became the head of HR. And then we got into this whole journey of my it was my husband's idea to migrate. I thought it was a joke, so I played along. But then when it became serious, I was like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, we're good. Like, I just want to keep going on my vacation and coming back home, right? But then when everything became like, oh, it's serious, this is this. Do I follow? I played along like medicals, did the tests, did everything. 2018, we got the PR thing, and it was time for us to make a decision. I was like, no, not at this time. So we kind of did like a soft landing in 2018. We came for like 2 weeks vacation, 2 months vacation, and weren't even too sure of what province to leave or to stay
Mm-hmm.
in. So we kind of tried all provinces. We visited all provinces. I wanted to stay in BC because then most especially Victoria, BC, because I heard that
Mm-hmm.
it only rains there and not snow. So we
Mm-hmm.
went there, visited Victoria, BC. We came to Toronto because my husband wanted Toronto because he said we're going to get more job opportunities and all that. So then we landed in Alberta because that's where we had our family member staying. So we were in 3 provinces trying to decide where to stay. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
we're done with vacation, went back home, and then it became a case of doing. We need to do this. Anyway, the same person who refused to like who wasn't so buying the idea, I was the one that they
Mm-hmm.
had to send to come chat the parts.
Hmm.
So so in exactly March 2019, so I came into Canada. And but the good thing was I wasn't just going to come and just sit down looking for a job. So I joined one of the programs the government normally organizes for internationally trained professional. It was done
Hmm.
through Access Employment. And so I had to attend their 7 weeks program for HR, which was very great. And that was how I got my first job, was through the
Hmm.
program, my first job. So I got my first job weeks after, right? And so, yeah, but then, but the journey to getting my first job, it was a lot.
Hmm.
I would apply for even assistant HR roles, HR coordinator roles, HRBP roles, and there was just a lot of rejections. There were just, as in, like, it was a lot. It was so, and for me, my kids coming to join me was inched on me getting a job. So the stakes were
Hmm.
high. So you can imagine what pressure that was.
Yeah. And at the
Like,
time, was your husband in school or did he already have a job?
no, he was in Nigeria. So he was
Oh, he
working in
was back
Nigeria. So
home.
we got a
Okay.
PR. So it wasn't like true school route.
Okay. Okay.
So we got the permanent residency thing. So
Okay.
we could come in and all that. He was in Nigeria working because the idea was we can both pull the plugs
At the same time.
so
Mm-hmm.
that we can be financially settled to do whatever it is we wanted to do. So it was like, you go forth, pack the sort things out, get a job, Then we get a house, we get, and then the boys will come join you, and then it will now come, so that at least we have time to like settle in. Anyways, did that, but then to cut the long story short, that was a journey, considering that you wanted to know. But then what happened then wasn't just immigration, like people will think. A lot of people overlook the experience immigrants go through. They don't know the immigration experience itself has a layer to our career search that a lot
Hmm.
of times people don't account for. Because you're not just changing countries, you're not just changing jobs or industry, you're also navigating a new culture, right?
Yes,
You're navigating a new professional language. Imposter
correct.
syndrome is telling you, are you sure you'll get the job? Right? People see your name. Oh, they don't shortlist. People see that you don't have Canadian experience. They don't shortlist, so they don't tell you that. The recruiters will pick up the phone once they hear your voice, your accent. They'll just tell you that, oh, there are other people that are more experienced in that role. They will go for them. Do you understand? People
Mm-hmm.
don't tell you that part.
Mm-hmm.
And the most important thing is that you're then now grieving the career identity you
You
left behind,
had.
because now everything seems like a no. Like everyone is saying no to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, HR assistant I can do now. Why they not
Mm-hmm.
calling me? That kind of thing. Even the
Mm-hmm.
job coordinator I can do. But anyways, um, but I got a job. Even after I got a job, it was going well, nice, and thanks to every support that I had. But then, even still in that place of work, I moved, changed some jobs. Like I've been
Wait, so
next,
Doyin, wait, before you jump, right? Because see, that pivot from getting loads of rejections, right?
yeah.
A lot of people quit,
Ah,
right? There's a happy path and there's an unhappy path. The unhappy path is people get so frustrated. They've applied 100 jobs in a day. That it's like they lose hope. It takes away from them.
yeah,
As you said, I was HR director, I was head of HR back home. Now, even something as little as HR coordinator or HR assistant that I know I've trained people on, I know how to do with my eyes closed. I'm not getting it. What is the problem? Is there something wrong with me? Am I not good enough? Am I in an environment that is more than I can chew? What is going on?
yeah,
A lot of people cannot handle that, right? It's a lot on their mental, it's a lot on just their being, and they quit. That's the unhappy path, right?
yeah.
So let's talk about that too, because there are a lot of people who are stuck there where they've quit, right? They've left their ambition, their career goals because of that frustration of applying, nothing is happening. What kept you going?
Trust me, Dr. Vivian, I had my own mental breakdown.
Hmm.
Because then when I came, I said I came alone, so I had to. I got an Airbnb for 4 months because we weren't too sure where I was going to get a job. We wanted me to be quite agile and flexible to be able to pivot and move to whatever location the job comes. Do you understand? Since I
Mm-hmm.
was by myself in my space, my Airbnb space, it will be as bad as after applying for almost 100 of jobs and you're just getting rejection, right, left, center. There was a day, I don't know if I've said this to people. I went on the floor of my room
Hmm.
and I cried out to God. I was like, God, please, you need to help me. So that's why I keep telling people I can't take away the place of God in my
Hmm.
story because He's still God even right now. Because I know things He
Yes.
has even helped me through, even changing jobs from one job to another and where I am right now. I I cried. There are days that, and for me, the stakes were high because knowing if you don't get a job, your kids will not come. So if you like, don't get a job in 4 months, your kids will be in Nigeria. Do you understand? If you like, don't
Mm-hmm.
get a job in 1 year, it means that all the plans will just be delayed.
Hmm.
So I would, some days I would cry, but I just kept trusting God because for me, before I could say yes, I had to go through a journey to be sure. Before I could say yes to come, I had to go through a journey, like a spiritual journey, to be sure that I was convinced to come. So, and there was a word He gave me then. He said to me, He said, I'll go before you and make every crooked path straight. So I'll take those words back to Him. So, in other words, I'm not preaching the Bible right now. I'm just saying that, in other words, for me, God was my forte,
Hmm.
right? That was what I held on to. And and the bigger picture in front, the brighter picture to say, doing, if you get a job, things, your kids will come, then you all can be together, that kind of thing. Those kind of things kept me going. But trust me, I
Mm.
hit the wall. When people say someone
Mm.
hits the wall, I hit the wall. I had my mental breakdown. But one thing that I just couldn't do was get stuck in there. So I had to
Mm.
speak to myself. And that's why one of the reasons why I'm so big on affirmation, I'm so big on journaling. So I would journal, I would ask myself questions. So what do I have to do differently? I've done this, done this, done this. I've applied on Indeed, I've done LinkedIn, I have done speed mentoring, I've done volunteering, I did all those things. I am in a program where people come in to ask for people. I was so dogged. Do you understand? I did.
Mm.
And trust me, I had emotional breakdown. And it was only me. So who would I, sometimes, yeah, I'll speak to my husband, but when you're not in the picture, you really don't get it. I remember there was one time that he came to visit me, and I was just so busy on the computer, just applying and applying and applying and applying. And the guy was like, "You don't even have time." It was until he came. When he landed, when he finally came and he was looking for his own job, it was like, okay,
You understood
now
it.
Doyin, I understand why you didn't have time, why you were so, because thousands of application, I lost count. I wasn't even tracking, because for me, I focus on the good, the positive, the negative. So tracking will give me number to feel bad,
Right.
right? So I had to focus on the positive. I had to focus on the bigger goal. So I know that yes, some people get stuck there, and that's one of the things that I see when I coach people, and because I coach a lot of immigrants. So I know it. I see it firsthand. I've experienced it firsthand, right? Sometimes we get stuck there and we don't even know what. Sometimes we believe that we are no good. Some people lose
Mm-hmm.
confidence, right? I was coaching someone recently, and she was telling me, she's doing, I'm a ghost of myself. She was like, she doesn't
Mm.
even know. She started saying all sort of negative things to herself. That is from this whole effect of looking for a job and not finding one, or
Yeah.
rejection. So imposter syndrome would then finally take over. So that was kind of the things that kind of ripped even some of my confidence away. Even after the job that I got, it was not like what I expected, but it was a good starting point. But one thing I said to myself was, I focused on the positive, that I was going to keep going forward no matter what,
Mhm.
irrespective of whatever was holding me back, and I was going to make it. So I would say
Yeah.
to anyone who is in there, cheer up, speak to people, places where you feel like it's a safe space for you. That's why you need a coach like me. And I've
Mhm.
helped a lot of immigrants get out of the rough, where they have lost confidence, where the limiting beliefs are taking over, and they've been able to get jobs. And I help people, I prepare them, I chat with people, I coach people even for interviews, because I
Mhm.
also enjoyed that privilege. The first interview I went for, finally through access, I was able to, a friend connected me with another HR professional who had been in Canada for a while. And while she
Mm.
was on a train ride to work, the day I was having the interview, she was like, okay, Dwayne, let's quickly chat. Let me prepare you. And while she was trying to interview me, I was responding like I would normally respond like Nigerian. She was like, no, she told me what to do, be chatty, be expressive, be this. And really, trust me, I took that, everything she taught me, went into the interview, applied myself, and out of three of us that went for that interview, I was selected. So I would say, let positivity, after whatever it is has been said and done, cry if you have to cry, but pick yourself up and keep moving. If you need a coach, get a coach. If you need a safe space, find someone you can rant to. Find courage. If you have to journal, if you have to use affirmation, whatever it is you have to use that. And I know you asked me to also kind of link it to my book. So I
Mhm.
would say that Shush came out of a very personal place for me, a
Mm.
place of distress. Even after I had got jobs, then navigating the workplace. After a while, I lost my voice. I
Mm.
can't explain it. I started listening to a lot of limiting beliefs, right?
Mm.
They'll ask a question, I know what to say. I will keep quiet. After someone else, I said, I'm like, but you were thinking about it. My voice became very, like, I lost my confidence. Even then, someone was asking me, okay, what's your 5-year goal? I was clueless. So Shush came from a place of distress. And
Mm.
aside from my own place of distress, what happened was that I kept meeting a lot of brilliant immigrants who
Mm.
were also paralyzed. Not
Mm.
because they lacked the skills, not because they
Mm.
didn't have the skills, But because the voice in their heads, after all the experience they had gone through, after all the rejections, after all the not feeling enough, after applying for jobs that were even less than their qualification and they were not accepted, right? I met people who started second guessing themselves. There were a lot of self doubt. People were
Mm-hmm.
comparing themselves. There were a lot of fear of being found out. So even after they get the job, they still feel
Mm-hmm.
like a fraud.
Correct.
So that was one. That was those were the reasons why I had to write Shush.
Mm.
But then I wrote Shush because I needed those tools myself. So I had to walk through that journey using all those things: journaling, affirmation, action plans, um, everything in my book, because the book is very practical. And after I
Mm-hmm.
had used it on myself, and then I was like, okay, I can't keep this to myself. And that's why I made it. It's very practical. It's a practical guide. It helps anyone who is experiencing limiting beliefs, right? To name it, to be able to strategically move past them, and so that you can show up fully as the best version of yourself. And it's not
I
just a
love
book
it.
that you pick one time. It's like you have to continue to practicalize it. It's not a magic wand. But trust me, everyone who has read the book, even my reviews on Amazon, people were like, doing, I should have picked this book earlier in this my
Mm.
journey.
Right. That's great. And I'm glad, you know, you're sharing your journey with us. I appreciate it, right? And you just being very vulnerable and authentic to tell us, first of all, that there's a higher being than yourself, which is God, right? I mean, I don't know who's watching. Not everybody believes in God, but knowing that there's something and someone bigger than you that you can lean in and tap from and seek direction is very important, right? So that's one thing that I want to call out. So I appreciate you saying that.
Thank
Now,
you.
the second thing that I want to call out is in reality, you know, all fingers are not equal, right? There are some people who, when they migrate, they don't really have they don't have a sustainable finance, right, to help them. And so out of desperation and just um survival, wanting to survive, they are forced into going to do menial jobs that are way below their skill sets, way below their expertise, right? Some it might not even be because of finances. It might just be because of immigration status. Like, hey, if I don't get a job now, wherever, I'm going to be out, right? I'm going to be out of status. I really don't know how it works in Canada with the, work permit or stay and all of that. But there's situations like that, hey, where people would say, hey, I just need a job, right? So that I'm not out of status or whatever, right? And so they end up get taking those menial jobs. Um, then what I've noticed is they get comfortable. Some people get comfortable in that place. They forget who they are and whose they are, right? And then they now embody the menial job that they've taken as though that's their identity, forgetting that they took that menial job for a reason, right? They took their menial job to be able to be in status, to be able to pay their bills, to be able to buy food on the table, to survive in that period, right? They forget, they get comfortable and they stay there, right? And I want us to just talk about that situation because people are still in that situation till now. The reason why I bring this up was because I remember, so I also am a career coach as well. I do executive leadership training and all of that. When I started Resilient Immigrant, um, I already had a company, Agile Career Consulting. I used to coach people. Resilient Immigrant actually started as a nonprofit to help people who couldn't afford the um, coaching fees. So this was my way of giving back, right? And I remember there was a lady who came to me for coaching. She had been in the US for 20 years, right? I looked at her resume. She had a bachelor's and a master's, bachelor's from Lagos State University of Lagos, UNILAG, and her master's from University of Ibadan, which were powerful schools, right?
Mm.
Powerful schools that can actually stand and compete with other schools internationally because we know that those are schools that have substance. And this lady was working in a warehouse with a factory worker, and she had been a factory worker for the 20 years that she had been in the US. Whereas I had only been in the US at the time for maybe, I think, maybe 8 years, right? And I looked at it and I said, hold on, something is not right. How is it that your qualifications, your degrees, your everything is up to par, but then you've remained stuck in doing this menial job? What is going on? Right? And this leads me back to, just talking about how can people remove themselves from that, right? At what point do they tell themselves, okay, I've gained stability to put food on my table. I've gained stability where I can pay my bills. I have roof over my head. I've gone through the status concern. I'm in a good place. It's time to push myself to gain more, to align with my identity of who I really am or what I deserve, right? There are people till today who are still stuck in a situation where they found themselves not because that's what they deserved, but because of circumstances. But they're still there even when the circumstances is better. Do you have example of people like that who you've coached? Have you seen that before?
Absolutely. I have coached quite a number of people who maybe even had a career break, maybe because they had kids, or even people who kind of started doing menial jobs and they couldn't just because they had to survive, which is no fault of theirs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they couldn't just break that loop to be able to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
They just got stuck
Mm-hmm.
in there. Sometimes some people it's the fear of this is what I know.
Hmm.
This is what is bringing food to the table. Do I want to rock
Mm.
the boat? What about if I leave this and never get something, or even if I leave this and go to the unknown and maybe they fire me or something happens, I'm not good at the job. So that's why you still link it up to the voice inside, right?
Hmm.
So yes, to your question, yes, I have coached a lot of people who are stuck in there. But then what we do is, and I'm sure you're well, you know we do this, we hold the mirror as coaches, right? We remind them of who they were, who they are meant to be, and their why. So through the questions that we ask them, we're able to remove the veil, as in make it clear, right? They're able to unpack whatever it is that is holding them stuck and they're
Mm-hmm.
able to move forward. Take that step. It's always like the first step is always the toughest.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment they do that, you're like, oh my goodness, why did I have to stay stuck for so long? So yeah, I could build on that if there are things you want me to, if there are follow up questions regarding that.
So the follow-up question is, there are people who, in that category, they have minimized themselves, they have shrunk themselves, they have removed their qualifications, their certifications, just so that they could fit that menial job they're trying to apply for because they feel like, oh, this is the easiest thing for me to, you know, get, right? But because I'm highly qualified, if I show all of those things on my resume, I might not get the job. So they shrink themselves. They remove their degree, they remove their certifications, they downplay, they water down all of their accomplishments just to get the job, right? Let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit about how that affects people and how why they shouldn't, like, I don't know, what would you recommend? Is that something you recommend for people to do? Is it a strategy? Like, let's talk about it.
Okay, so I always say that no one rule fits all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because and I can't compare two people because they're the ones who know where their shoe pinches them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is I say today, it's not coming from the point of oh I know it all or this is what it should
Right.
be. But so first of all is one, know where you are at, know what
Right.
is at stake, know what you are, how low can you go, right? Know what it is that you can do, right? But then while you're doing that, never forget the bigger picture.
Hmm.
Never forget where you are going to. So, in other
Hmm.
words, I tell people, yeah, go for the low hanging fruits, yes, because you need to pay the bills and all that. So, in other words, if you see survival jobs, if that's what your hands can find to do, do it. Because a lot of times, from even experience, okay, so I worked in Amazon and I was an HR business partner in supporting the distribution centers. And I
Mm-hmm.
have seen a lot of immigrants who start picking, packing, but then they're
Hmm.
diligent at those work. And
Mm-hmm.
before you know it, they become even
They
operational
advance.
managers. So I can't dismiss any path where anyone chooses to go. But
Correct.
whatever you are doing, do it with all diligence.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is you choose to do not forget where you are going.
Going.
Because then you know the right time to pivot. You know the
Yes.
right time to say, okay, now we're done with this. We need to
Mm-hmm.
move on. And we've seen people from that position where they have become operational managers, they have really grown to senior, like senior levels, supervisor, because one, they were very good at what they were doing. Opportunities came, they had all the skills needed to thrive in the workplace. And which would lead me to something that I would like to say, since we're talking about career, what's the name? Reinvention. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, one of the most painful things that I see is incredibly qualified immigrant professionals, right? Being passed over. Not
Hmm.
because they lack skills,
Mm-hmm.
but because they haven't learned how to package those skills for the new audience. So those people
Mm-hmm.
that I said, oh, they were picking, packing, was because when they got into that place, they knew where they were coming from. They
Mm-hmm.
knew, or better say, they know what they want to achieve. So they ensure that they were able to transfer and translate whatever skills and competencies they had into even the job of picking. So just imagine someone was picking anyhow, and someone was diligent, always meeting their numbers and was exceeding, always wanting to take on more by supporting the supervisor. Do you understand? Those kind of people, tell me if there was an opportunity, who do you think they will call? So, what I'm saying is that for immigrants, reinvention when it comes to a career is not usually about what you know. It is about one, take note of this, how you present what you know. So if
Hmm.
you are, like, let's say you know data analysis and you are busy doing a menial job, there will be opportunities where someone needs something. Apply that your skills, right? Present yourself as someone who is not just in that level of picking and packing. I'm not saying be arrogant. I'm not saying shove it down people's throat, right? But you need to read the room. And
Hmm.
then number two is where you show up. So let's say they are doing, oh, they need volunteers for maybe affinity groups or things. Show up and show up with all the valuable skills that you have. Number
Correct.
three, who you allow yourself to become in the new environment. Some people will say, oh, yeah, speaking packing, and that's all I'm going to be. Some people allow themselves to shine through it.
Hmm.
And I want to, and like I said, I want to give an analogy. Like, think about it this way. Let's say you wrote a brilliant document in French and you handed it over to someone who only reads English. It doesn't mean that document is not valuable. What it means is that it simply needs translation. So, in other words, career reinvention for immigrants is means that we need to translate all the skills that we have. Even if we start with manager job, make sure that you're doing that manager job in a way that someone will call you one day and say that, have you done this before? It seems you have a higher skill than this. We need someone to fill in for this role. Are you able to? But not like you go in, you're late, you are tardy, you are everything negative. Or you have allowed the negative mindset to
I can
sabotage
hear
or
you.
to take over. Okay, I wasn't too sure. My computer went to take over, right? And so you're not showing up as your authentic self. When I mean authentic self, I mean showing your skills, your capability, even with what you're doing. It's just like someone says, okay, someone didn't go to school and knows how to sew, right? So the person is a tailor
Mm-hmm.
sewing. And someone went to school, well educated, and learned how to sew. If you look deeply at those two people, you see that this person is sewing with some finesse. Even
Hmm.
the way they sell, the way they package. So, in other words, those experiences that we have, Those competencies that we have to translate it to wherever position we find ourselves. And trust me, it will show. People are watching. When they are making those decisions in the rooms where you are not, those are those little things, those soft skills, those things that you do not even count as important, are those kind of things that they will say to be able to say, this person, we can move them to the next level. And then gradually you keep moving. Or in fact, even if you don't want to grow within that environment where you were picking and packing, that's the same attitude you will translate into when that opportunity comes for you to go for an interview. So, in other words, from everything I've said, if you're currently picking and packing or doing a menial job and you feel like you're stuck in the rut, I want to remind you
Hmm.
that a lot of us immigrant professionals, we don't lack qualification. We don't lack that at all. What we
Mm-hmm.
lack are the tools to communicate our value in our new country or in our new context.
Hmm.
And don't forget, career reinvention isn't about starting over again.
Hmm.
It's about learning to reframe and reposition what you already have inside of you and what you're already bringing to the table so that it can land in this new environment and be well received.
I love that. I love that you're really reinforcing that because a lot of people think that they have to start from scratch. You hear people say, "Oh, I have to start from scratch when I relocate, I'm starting from ground zero." But really, it's using the things that you have and packaging it the way that your new environments can receive it. I love that. Now, in the last, quadrant of this session, I wanted to talk about community because that is also a big aspect of your invention, right?
Yeah.
Something people always say is whoever picks you up from the airport determines what your life would be. And it's fairly true for the most part. I remember I had a coachee, one of my clients who is in Canada, and rightfully so, the person who picked up from the airport, which happened to be a family member, advised that she should become a caregiver in Canada. Become a caregiver because basically that's the easiest kind of job to get. That's what everybody in the society was doing. They knew it. It was straightforward. But deep down in her heart, she didn't have the bone for caregiving, right? She just wasn't that, she didn't have that caregiving spirit. She wasn't nurturing, all of those things, right? And she felt, hey, I'm going to go do the job and I'm going to suck at it. I'm going to fail at it because this is not what I want to do. It's not who I am. I don't, she just really couldn't do it, right? And but everybody in the society or in their little community looked at her as though she was feeling pompous. Who do you think you are? When you come abroad, it's a leveler. You have to do this. You have to bring your shoulders down. You have to, right? And so I have my own perceptions about community, right? But again, I want you to tell us because I mean you are a able speaker today, right? So I want you to really guide this conversation around community because your community could either make you or marry you, right? So let's talk about community.
Absolutely. And I was smiling because what you said is actually true. And I remember someone saying it to me, who you surround. I remember when we landed soft landing then, my sister-in-law then said to me, who you surround yourself with when you're on this journey determines how far you go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that kind of relates as or connects with the story you just said. And so what I did was intentionally make sure I surrounded myself with like where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And I said to myself, because I know what my journey was even to get to HR back in Nigeria, because I started as a customer service
Hmm.
person and I wanted HR badly. So I did everything I could possibly do, going back to school, taking courses, even when we traveled abroad for a year. I came back to Nigeria and I was like, I wanted HR. So I knew what it costed me. I knew how long it took me to get into HR. So for
Hmm.
me, I knew what I wanted when I was coming. I said, even if I was going to start as an HR assistant in
Hmm.
Canada, I did not mind. It had to be HR. Do you understand? So I knew what I wanted. But then going back to your question, I want to be very honest with you. A lot of times people think career reinvention is a journey that you can go solo. So I would like to say to everyone who's listening is career invention is really a solo journey.
Mm.
Nobody should try to figure it out alone, most especially when you are first starting to navigate your career transition in a new country,
Mm.
because it will cost you your time, it will
Mm-hmm.
cost you your confidence, it will
Mm.
cost you your energy that you don't
Mm.
need to spend. Even when you still have community, it's costing you some energy, it's costing you some confidence, it's costing you some of your time, right? So just now imagine if you were doing this alone. Remember, I said to you
Alone.
that I joined, like I was part of a program that for internationally trained HR professional. So that was
Mm-hmm.
my immediate community, and some of my classmates as I speak to you right now, then that's about 7 years ago, are like my sisters. Like right now,
Mm.
I met the first place I sat in that class, the first day I came, because I came in late. Because remember, I got in from Nigeria a day to the class, started the class the next day. So I had to take a bus from Mississauga all the way to Brampton. It took me longer. It was my first time on their bus. So it was, but then, so I walked into the class. The only space I saw was beside two ladies, one Jamaican, one Nigerian. As I speak to you right now, if they are listening, they know themselves. They are my soul sisters. Like we are sisters now. So aside the community in the class, the support, learning, unlearning, relearning new things, because the laws and how we do HR in Nigeria is totally different from how it's done in Canada, and I know it is different from how it's done in the US, because right now
Mm-hmm.
in my current role I support both US and Canada, so I know
Mm-hmm.
what that is, right? So what I'm saying is that you need community. No one can reinvent their career, or no one can reinvent their journey without community. And I would liken it to community is like, if you don't have, if you're trying to reinvent without a community, it's like you hiking in an unfamiliar forest
Mm.
where you do not have a trail map or you do not have a guide. You might eventually find your way out, but trust me, you would have wasted so much time, you would have wasted so much energy, you would have wasted so much confidence going in circles. God help you, you don't see animals on your way. You understand? God help you, you don't go down a slopey whatever that you hurt yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
community, I say, is the trail map that you need, is the trail guide that you need. And with community, you get to meet people who have walked the path before you. So that will save you months.
From making those mistakes.
Exactly. It will save you months. It will save you years. It will save you unnecessary detour. And aside that, when I landed, another great community, which I am forever grateful to, is the church that I attend right now.
Mm.
I remember when I was leaving my job and coming here, someone said, "Oh, I know some families in Nigeria, I mean, Canada. When you reach there, call them." I didn't call them, but I didn't know she gave them my number. So they called me. So one of those days when I was looking for church to go, they said they were going to come pick me up for church.
Mm.
So they picked me up from a very long, from Mississauga. They took me down to Richmond Hill for church. I mean, I've been looking for church to attend. Immediately I walked into that church, I knew that was the church. And that's been the church we've been attending for 7 years. And immediately I joined, the pastor, everyone were trying to look for jobs for me, were giving me guidance, do you understand? And even when I started looking for a house to rent, it was the pastor that was driving me around. Even when I
Mm.
wanted to buy my car, it was one that drove me to go and pick up my car. Even then, he got someone, a church member, to drive the car, right? So he took me to work because I was starting my new job. Do you understand? And then he made that person to sit with me to keep driving from Mississauga to Bolton. And for those who are in Canada, you understand the distance. So what I'm trying to say is that community is big, but just ensure that you have gotten the right community so that nobody leads you um astray. And even when
Mm-hmm.
you get all those advices, right, you can still see which one is right. So I'll give you a good example. Still talking about community. I remember someone walking up to me to say, Doyin, if you were doing well in Nigeria, right? Yeah, better go back. Do you understand? Like,
Mm.
because this is going to be a very tough journey. I know she won't remember she said that to me. But then I looked at myself and said to me, Doyin, it's okay. You're the one that knows what you're in and you will make it work.
Mm.
irrespective of what hurdles you face.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I would also like to add that having spaces like yours, the resilient immigrant community, or having what the kind of community that I've built for immigrant women professionals, that's the Rise and Rebuild community, and having
Mm-hmm.
some other communities that people have around beyond the church, beyond organizations and agencies, I would say to you, please, whatever it is you have, be a part of that, right? Don't
Mm-hmm.
try to figure it out alone because it can be draining.
And Doyin, tell me again, what is the name of your community and what is your community made up of in terms of like race, identity, things like that?
So the community that I have built is called Rise and Rebuild Community. And
Okay.
it's I specifically created this for immigrant women professionals
Mm-hmm.
so that they're able to gain clarity, rebuild their confidence, and grow strategically, being able to balance life and career and whatever it is they want to become the best version of themselves. And back to your question. So right now I have people on that community, even from the UK, people from the
Mm-hmm.
US, people in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not just only for Canadians. It's not only for
Okay.
immigrants that are in Canada, but it's strictly
Okay.
women. But we are
Okay.
cross as far as you're an immigrant in whatever part of the world, and it's right now is on WhatsApp. So even if you go to
Okay.
my website, you would see that you can always look for the link and join. And if you
Okay.
also go, so that's
So what is
that.
the demographic of the community? Because I know some people, they have communities that are predominantly African immigrants, or is it all immigrants or is it African
All
immigrants?
immigrants. So all
Okay, I
immigrants. So
love
on my
that.
community right now, I have white, as in sorry, colored. I have Indians. I have quite a number of Africans,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm trying to grow it to ensure that it's not just people that look like me or people that speak like me.
I love it.
So
I love it.
yes, so yeah,
Okay.
and that's why I
Thank
call
you.
it immigrant women professional. So I'm not saying it's black. I'm not saying it's
It's
whatever.
a
So
mix. It's
yeah,
just all immigrants, regardless of where
all
you're from.
immigrant women
Whether Yes, okay, I
wherever.
love that because, resilient immigrants also, people ask us that questions like, oh, do you just focus on African immigrants with a specific demographic? And it's like all immigrants, we share the same journey, regardless of
Yes.
what our skin color looks like or what our accents sound like. We share the same journey. All right, so again, because of time, this has been a great session, doing. I appreciate you a lot of times you were speaking, I had chills just go down my spine because I could definitely relate to what you were saying. I've lived the journey, I've walked that path, and I can absolutely, it resonates with me. So thank you so much. I know that this is going to resonate with the audience who watch this as well. Um, so as we begin to wrap up, we always take a moment to reaffirm why we're here. And at Resilient Immigrant, we don't just share information, we change narratives, we highlight success stories, we inspire and we transform people. We primarily want to change that stereotype about immigrants, right? And we want immigrants to start embodying excellence. They already do, but majority are still shrinking themselves, and we don't want that. Anyways, with that being said, I'm the founder of Resilient Immigrant. So clearly, I stand with all immigrants, regardless of demographic, race, background, all of those things. So I'm going to turn it over to you for your affirmation statement.
So my name is Doyin Abitoye. I'm an HR professional, a life and career coach, and also the author of the book called Shush. I am a resilient immigrant.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doing. This was a great session. And before we wrap up, real quick, just tell the audience where they can find you for people who are looking to reach out to you for coaching, to get your book. Just tell us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Vivian. So my website is www.doyinabitoye. It's one word, my name, Doyin Abitoye, no space.com. So in on my website, you'll find every detail you need to know about me. I'm also on IG, and it's Coach D underscore Abitoye, my last name. And so with that, you can always find me. And please feel free, send me a DM, send me whatever it is. I am very graceful, and I would respond whatever it is you send me, and I'm happy to connect with anyone.
Of course. Thank you, Doyi. And to our guests who are watching, again, Resilient Immigrants is here to serve. If you guys have any specific topics that you want us to discuss, we would reach out. You reach out to us and we would make it happen. We would bring professionals who are experts to actually lead sessions, experts like Doyin. So don't hesitate. Definitely send us a message, DM us on LinkedIn, Instagram. We'll be happy to organize a session like this. Until next time, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you again.